Well, here we are. I'm Tom Osman, and this is Whatever Comes Next. It's the podcast where I explore the world of underground and independent music making. And on today's episode, I am joined by songwriter, vocalist, multi-instrumentalist, record label owner, animator, and member of too many bands to mention. But here's a few of them: GWAR, Cancer Christ, and for the purposes of this interview, Squid Pisser. And I'm talking about Tommy Meehan. And so, as is the way in this podcast, the timeline of when I talk to people and when the episodes actually go online is quite variable. So, in fact, I was just going back and having a look. I interviewed Tommy more or less 2 months ago, the same week that I interviewed Matt Cronk of Cunts. Check out that episode. And I also interviewed Neezy Dynamite of Fox Medicine. Check out that episode. For various reasons, now was the time for putting this episode out. So, Squid Pisser, when you watch this, will have just released their latest album, Dreams of Puke. And if you are unfamiliar with Squid Pisser and you're thinking this all sounds very vulgar and very visceral, well, just wait till you see the artwork. So the extremely memorable and striking artwork was done by Gregory Jacobsen, who, if you're watching this episode on YouTube and you see Tommy's background, you'll see he has a painting on the wall. This is actually also by Gregory Jacobsen, who, as well as being an illustrator, also has his own band, Lovely Little Girls. And so aside from talking about that, we talk about the making of the album. We talk about various history that Tommy Meehan has, varied history, first starting out in San Francisco, and he moved to Los Angeles. I think it was just under 20 years ago. So we get into why he moved. We talk about basically his decision to go all in and dedicate himself to just basically pursuing music and making that his goal. It was a very inspiring interview for me. And in fact, this is one of the first interviews where I started talking directly with the people I'm interviewing about the book of investigating the experiences of independent music makers. It was Tommy was pretty inspiring for me, just both in terms of listening to him talk about his own passion for music making, but also thinking about the things that I wanted to do myself. And we had a nice conversation at the end about the book, and Tommy offered me, advice and tips and sort of helpful suggestions. I probably won't keep that in once I've edited this episode because that's a bit self-indulgent, and this is about him, this episode, not about me. But I'm very thankful for his interest and for his time. And what else is there to say? I'm going to play you a track from Dreams of Puke, which, by the way, is out on GRAFT Records. And if you would like to get yourself a very sexy copy of colored splattered vinyl, you can, I guess GRAFT Records have got their own website, but you can definitely go to the Bandcamp. You can go to the Bandcamp of Squid Pisser as well. But as is the way with these things, if you go online and type in Squid Pisser Dreams of Puke vinyl, you're not going to have any problem in locating and getting your hands on a copy. Of course, it's on all streaming services, yada, yada, yada. If you'd like to follow the band, you can find them at Squid Pisser on Instagram. I believe they're on Facebook as well. Not sure about Twitter. Actually, I think they are on Twitter, but now I'm not sure. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. And the band is currently on tour. So in fact, as this episode drops, they will have just finished a number of dates with GWAR, and they'll have a few gigs coming up with Melt Banana in North America. In fact, I think maybe the first one is tomorrow, the 19th. And in September, they are going to have some more shows with GWAR, but I wouldn't be surprised if there were some other shows that get announced in between then. So you can definitely check that out on Instagram. But once again, type in Squid Pisser Live 2024. No doubt you're going to get some info. I would highly recommend, if you are on Instagram, that you do follow Squid Pisser, though, because they have some pretty wild updates. And as well as the music being striking, the artwork being striking, the presentation of the band on stage with the mask wearing and all the costumes and everything else, which is also a topic we get into in the interview, is rather striking. I think Tommy actually talks about their Instagram in the interview and says he's not actually running it anymore. I forget who he says is running it, but whoever that may be, apologies that I forgot your name, but well done. You are doing a fine job of curating the Squid Pisser Instagram. Anyway, if you so desire, you can follow me at Tom Osmond Sounds on all social media. You can check out what I'm doing musically at tomosmondsounds.com. And wherever you are watching or listening to this podcast, I would be delighted if you would subscribe, give a positive rating, thumbs up, comment, etc., etc. And I think that's all. And I will just say, take it away, Tommy Meehan of Squid Pisser. I'm fascinated by the artwork, and I was definitely going to ask you about visuals, and I know you've got an animation background as well. This painting behind you kind of has a little bit of a feel of the forthcoming Squid Pisser album cover. Is there any kind of connection here?
Yeah, same guy.
Aha.
Yeah, Gregory Jacobsen. He's amazing. He's in Chicago. He has a band called Lovely Little Girls, which you should check out if you haven't heard of them.
No, I haven't.
Oh yeah. I know I have some records around here somewhere, but they're amazing. He sings in it, and he's a painter and illustrator and general weirdo. And we've collaborated on some stuff over the years. A lot of times he'll help me out with like artwork stuff for my bands and things, and we've gotten to know each other. And just an amazing fellow.
Does he tend to go in for the sort of bodily fluids theme, or was that more something that you pushed for with the cover?
Oh, definitely. If you check out any of his stuff, I think a lot of his, especially his older stuff, there's a lot of just like mong, if you know what that word is. Just
Yeah.
just like really chunky, gross, oozy viscera and guts and all kinds of fluids. Yeah, very like body horror. As you can see, yeah, he's great.
Yeah, it's a very striking painting to have up on your wall. It's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I got it years ago from him, or from an art gallery in Chicago. Yeah, I became a fan just like immediately. I found Lovely Little Girls and I was like, whoa, this is awesome. And then I found out that he was a painter, singer, and I dived into that stuff, and I just fell in love with his stuff. And then, reached out and inevitably and started trying to collaborate with him, and then eventually we became friends. So, but yeah, he's awesome.
And are you LA born and bred?
I've been here for 19 years now, but originally I was in the Bay Area, San Francisco. So I was there for 20 years and then been here for 19.
And why did you move?
To find musicians who are serious about trying to make sacrifices and go all in and tour and make stuff and dedicate their lives to it. And then it took me a long time of being in LA to start to find those people. So it wasn't like move to the big city and then all your problems are solved, because that was always the issue growing up. Being younger was like finding people who were serious about wanting to, dedicate themselves to making things and doing music and touring and stuff. And I'm still finding those people. And I found a lot of the people that I work with now are very much ride or die. So I feel lucky after so many years of like trying. But yeah, that's why I moved down here essentially.
And so how does the sort of determination to get involved in musical projects tie into your background of animation and visual arts? Which came first?
Yeah, it's definitely the other way around. So like I started doing music. I mean, well, I was drawing and stuff as a youngster before I had any musical instruments, just because that was my only way to create stuff, pen and a paper in school. And then I found, Green Day when I was 8 years old, or Crisscross when I was 7 or something. And I was like, music, cool, I want to do that. And then it was many years after that discovery of realizing I wanted to do that, that I actually like was able to um, come in contact with any instruments. It was like I was like 13 or before I ever got a guitar. So um, I'm bouncing all over the place. But yeah, so I had wanted to do music, couldn't afford to essentially. Finally got a guitar, and then was doing music and bands and stuff in the Bay Area. Oh, moved to LA, trying to do bands for a few years, struggling, just super poor, working in coffee shops and stuff and pizza places. And then I was like, fuck, I need to like figure out a career thing. Um, got into animation, which like kind of gave me a steady situation financially, but then it took a lot of time out of creating and doing band stuff, which is why I moved here. So I kind of like repositioned myself and dove back into doing band stuff a few years ago. Although I had always been doing music, I realized I had to like really dive fully and put all my chips on the table, and that's where I'm at right now. So if that's a convoluted version of the answer, I'm sorry.
No, 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 no. That's all good. I'm just thinking it's like I kind of I try to get into the habit of sort of like mapping out my questions in a coherent order so that sort of like I know how to get from one point to the other. But then sometimes I go off on all sorts of tangents. So on the one hand, I'm listening to you, I'm just like, oh yeah, I can ask about this and this and this and this. And I'm like, no shit, I should really get back to the starting point. Otherwise, I'm gonna get lost.
Yeah, me too.
Squid Pisser. Before we get any further, so Dreams of Puke, I love it. I've had the opportunity to listen to it over the past couple of weeks, I think, and I've listened to it about half a dozen times, and I would say that I still haven't fully like absorbed what it's all about because there's so much going on. I like when I write about bands and I write about albums, I really struggle when it comes to like genre descriptions of bands of like, oh, this is this or this is that. So I've come up with my description of the album. And I'm pretty sure no one else is going to say exactly this. But so my description of the album is it's like being set on fire and kicked backwards down a hill, but somehow at the bottom you land on your feet and you walk away, but you also have a butt plug inserted.
Ooh, so there's like some kind of erotic stuff going on as well, but it's kind of hidden from the public or something.
Well, I
It's,
feel like there is something slightly erotic going on. It's like if we take some of the titles, so Virus Assholes, Felching Your God, The Hottest Load, Dreams of
yeah.
Puke, Splatter the Master, like there definitely are some bodily fluid and potentially sexual elements going on. I mean, is there something erotic to you about all of the sort of concept of Squid Pisser, or is it more being gross, or like kind of how do you sort of like feel about the aesthetic of the band?
Yeah, I don't know. Just like, I think instinctively it's like something visceral and provocative just wants to come out of me in general. I think that's how I enjoy art and always have. I mean, things
Mm.
that excite you and give you kind of tingles in places. Um, so I don't know. It was very kind of like brain shut off, just go with instincts on making all of this squid pisser stuff. Um, which was an approach that I had taken over the years, but really wanted to get back into because like I was doing this band called the Manx, which was very kind of elaborate and like this huge idea. And we had accordion and banjo and stand-up bass and stuff, and we were always very cerebral in our approach to everything we did, and it was like a very much a committee, and it was 5 of us, and I kind of wanted to get away from that and just really like let stuff pour out. And I felt
Mm.
like I had accumulated all of this kind of, spunk inside me over the years that needed to just like spray out and splatter all over the place and not have too much regard for like where it landed or what it made messy or anything like that. So I don't know, in the terms of like there being some kind of like sexual release to it all, I definitely think that there was like a lot of foreplay and build up because I had been thinking about Squid Pisser for so many years and doing a band exactly like this where we had masks and this kind of sound and very just kind of pummeling and all out just onslaught in general. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, but
It does. I think that makes a lot of sense. What about in terms of the sound? Like one of the things I was thinking listening to the album was I was thinking, okay, how do you go about constructing one of these tracks? You know, like I've listened to plenty of extreme music that can be fast, it can have tempo shifts, it can have rhythmic shifts. Um, you know, like I mean, there's a million grindcore bands out there, and I'm not saying Squid Pisser is grindcore, but you've got grindcore elements in it. But like just taking any one of those tracks, how do you go about constructing it? Do you start it slow? Do you sort of work on different parts and then decide what fits together? What's sort of the process for that?
um a lot of it again is just very like turn your brain off and just kind of let my fingers do stuff as I'm capturing ideas. And I'm very just liberal with like I'll be in my office and shooting out a bunch of ideas, or like if a guitar effect is prompting me to play something in a certain way, I'll capture that and then I'll be like, oh, well, that's then kind of prompting me to think of I could put the kick and the snare here so that I'm building off of this like maybe a ring mod effect that I've put down. And then I'm like, okay, cool. Now I have this really kind of atonal melody that's kind of demented. And now I have this the bones of what will be the rhythm. And I just kind of build from there. And I kind of came up with a lot of different parts that maybe didn't make sense flowing together. And then the process was pretty crazy because I was writing down on binder paper like and categorizing all of these parts that I had and kind of like using highlighters to like see if they would connect, to try and once I had like hundreds of ideas, uh I color coded everything to see if I could put them together to form some kind of cohesive like beginning, middle, and end songs. And that's kind of how Squid Pisser started in the demo phase. I just did all of that by myself in my studio here. And then I brought Seth in, the drummer, Seth Carolina, and he and I then started piecing things together, and things just started forming more naturally in terms of like, oh, well, we could do this, we could do this, we can elaborate on that and everything. So that was generally like the creative process technically, for the music of Squid Pisser. And and also I think just having ADD and being like, all right, we did that 3 times, that's enough. Like, what's next? Just like wondering what would keep my fingers occupied and my brain occupied.
Yeah.
And something to mention about that too, something I've noticed about myself, I I just started playing with GWAR. I don't know if
Mhm.
you're familiar. Well, probably. But like it's a different situation. We have this long song we played on the tour where it's like it's long and there are these parts that are kind of drawn out and similar. And in general, even though they're simpler, those things are tougher for me to pay attention to sometimes. Not just with GWAR, but with any band that's like longer parts. Um, like it's easier for me to remember stuff if it's a bunch of little parts just kind of like and versus kind of like my brain just kind of starts to meander during
Mhm.
playing parts that are more drawn out or like repetitive in general. I mean, yeah, so I don't know, just something to mention, I guess. Just a thought.
In terms of, and I definitely do want to ask you about GWAR in a minute, but in terms of just one more question about the construction of the tracks, when you're going into your studio and you're just doing it yourself, what kind of software do you use for that?
So it's just Logic. I've been using that for years for scoring. I used it first to start scoring for cartoons, because it's good with scoring the picture, and then there's like samplers and stuff. It was the first time I had really used computers to record, basically. I had used Pro Tools a little bit before, but I got really
Mm.
comfortable with Logic. So demoing and everything, I would I've been using Logic. And then I realized too that like the sound quality that I was getting in my studio downstairs was good enough. It totally acceptable for like using for final recordings and stuff like that. So I've recorded a bunch of stuff for Cancer Christ and Squid Pisser and other projects of mine, like all in my studio downstairs. And um, initially I wasn't sure if it was gonna, you know, be of a good enough quality, but but I guess it is. So, yeah.
And in terms of the drums, do you program drums yourself first, and then like with Squid Pisser, when Seth came in, you then like sort of went, here's what I've created, do what you want with it, sort of thing?
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I'll use like Studio Drummer. I forget what it is. It's like Native Instruments has one. I use something like that, or like Get Good Drums is one that Roz from Cancer Christ and I have been using for new Cancer Christ demos. So yeah, whatever. Just for demoing, like any of those will get the idea across. But yes, it's exactly that. I'll kind of like demo things with a fully formed like guitar right, guitar left, bass, and drums, and get as close as I can, and then we'll bring it in, and Seth will like nitro inject it, and then we're just playing it like 10 times faster, and it's just even more energy and insane. So, yeah.
It's just it popped into my head that like a friend of mine that I have had different musical projects with, we used to have this joke because like neither of us had any experience playing drums, but we would program drums, and there would always be that joke of like, oh, you've created an octopus part which couldn't be
Yeah, totally.
constructed by anyone else. Like, do you have a background of actually playing drums yourself?
A little bit, just like in the studio and stuff, but like I always call myself a guitar player by double default because like I wished when I first got into music, I wanted to play drums, but we lived in an apartment and like parents were just like, no, absolutely not. Like, so next best thing was like bass. I was like, okay, then I want to play bass because that just kind of stood out to me. But like my parents didn't know what that was. Like they didn't know the difference. So they're like, well, what do you mean? Like you'll get a guitar or whatever. I'm like, okay, anything at this point.
Yeah.
So I got a guitar and that's what I spent the most time with. So, but yeah, so I've always felt like I've been gravitated. I gravitate toward good drumming, like Meshuggah and Dillinger Escape Plan and stuff like that. Like is my favorite. It's just like so stimulating, and you're like, what's going on here? And
Yeah.
and so I do think I have an understanding of like what it means, and I've been writing drum parts my whole life basically. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't think I struggle with that too much, like coming up with stuff that people can't play.
Dillinger Escape Plan makes a lot of sense in terms of that kind of um, extreme music and also jumping between different parts. I was wondering as well, listening to the album, um, is Today is the Day that also an
I've
influence? No?
never, I know I've checked them out at one point, but I can't tell you what they sound like. Um, but maybe I should revisit. I'm not
Sure.
familiar.
They're my favorite metal band. I mean, I wouldn't really say it wasn't that I thought that the album sounded like Today is the Day. It's just that I know
Mhm.
that with them, they do tend to mix, like they'll have a doom passage and then they'll have a grindcore part and then they'll have this and they'll have that. And so there was something about sort of the way that the album flowed and jumped between different parts. But like, oh, that kind of like style or that like
Mhm.
way of constructing a song reminded me of them a bit. But I mean, there's a
Mhm.
million bands out there and there's a million different things that can sound like one influence or another.
For sure. Yeah, but maybe we both kind of took similar approaches in our like ADD mentality or
It could
mindset.
well
Yeah,
be.
I should check them out. Yeah.
You definitely should. In my humble opinion, GWAR. Getting back to GWAR. So I understand that they have been your favorite band for a long, long time. Tell me about your first exposure to GWAR.
Yeah. There was this record shop in my hometown of Novato, California, which is near this place called the Phoenix Theater in Petaluma, California. And the Phoenix Theater I used to go to all the time and see bands like local bands like Nuclear Rabbit, which was one of my favorite bands from up there. I don't know if you're familiar with them. Pretty underground. Nuclear Rabbit, I'd recommend them. I keep bringing them up like with everybody I talk to. They're just like one of my favorite weirdo bands. Um, but they would play the Phoenix all the time. GWAR would come through, play this place called the Phoenix. The Phoenix is like this old movie theater or old opera theater, and there are like skate ramps in it, and there's spray paint everywhere. It's like just a cool, charming place and like all ages venue. And so I would go see GWAR there in my teen years, and just like they blew my mind, every aspect of it. Like it was everything I wanted from life. It's like heads being ripped off and just the visceral, again, the word visceral keeps popping up, just blood and riffs and humor too. And so yeah, that was kind of the first exposure to them, was just getting my face ripped off at figuratively at the Phoenix Theater. And yeah, and then always had like just strived to do something, that was even close to as good as GWAR. And then eventually became like acquaintances with them. My buddy Mike Chillian from my band The Manx and I were doing animation stuff, and we were like, we should put together a GWAR cartoon, and we did. And so got to know Dave Brocky and Michael Dirks and Brad, the drummer of GWAR, Jizmak Dagusha, and I'm trying to think of, we had met Casey too. So this is like 13 years ago. And then we were just kind of like peripherally like chat every now and again. And then they had asked my band Cancer Christ to tour last October, and we went and did that and became friends. And then like Brent, their guitar player, was leaving, and blah blah blah, and I just started hanging with them, and then kind of got absorbed into the fold, which is like a dream come true. So
Yeah, I can imagine. What was that like when you got the word from them that they wanted you to be in the band?
oh man, yeah, that was like a weird day. I mean, just when it was became a conversation of like, hey, let's like start chatting about this seriously. We were on tour. I think we were in Richmond and playing the National with them, which is like their hometown venue. They play all the time, and it was just trippy. I think I had like done a sound check with them, and they started kind of taking the idea seriously, and so had I. And um, yeah, just like there were many steps and phases of all of that too. I was in the middle of being on tour with Cancer Christ, and kind of we were in the thick of it, so we're all in the van and like dealing with just how taxing being on tour is in a small van with 5 dudes, and like having done it, being gone for over a month and stuff, and staying in hotels and driving all night and setting up merch and doing sound check, and like it's just it was a lot to then be like, okay, and then now you're going to try out for GWAR. And I'm just like, whoa, it's a bit overwhelming, dream come true. And I didn't fully have time to like appreciate it, and not appreciate it, but it was just like, I don't know if it hit me. And then also I was like, well, they're not going to choose me. Like they can get anybody they want. And but the more we started talking, the more we kind of felt kinship with one another, and the more we've just been bonding a bunch. And even before deciding that I would join, like we just like became close. And so it just then it all kind of started to make sense that like, oh yeah, it kind of makes sense that I would just like step in. And it's been a really natural transition. We're just like creating with them has been very natural, and um yeah, just a dream come true. It's been cool.
I guess I can imagine it's like when you meet your heroes, then it can sort of demystify things a little bit. So it's kind of like you're not so totally in awe because now like you get to actually interact with them as people. So it sort of sounds like you like the relationship developed over stages. So by the time they suggested that you should join the band, it was kind of like it wasn't just suddenly out of the blue, like you already had something going on with them.
Yeah, totally. Like there were, yeah, exactly, stages. Exactly. It was like, oh, a little bit more, a little bit more. I'm like, oh, cool. Now I know these guys now. We're friends, and like, okay, cool. Exactly like you're saying. Totally.
And if I
Yeah.
remember this correctly, that you actually created Cancer Christ, or maybe it was one of your other bands, with like particularly in mind that you wanted to make a band that could tour with GWAR.
Yeah, because it was a goal of mine for so many years since seeing them when I was a teenager. I was like, I want to go on tour with these guys. And I was kind of like reformatting my approach to music in general. I just disbanded. The Manx had disbanded after being a band for 10 years, and I was like, all right, it's time to like do some heavy stuff and really just kind of follow my gut on things. And so yeah, that was like a mission statement from day one. Anthony and I, St. Anthony, the singer of Cancer Christ, and I were talking, and yeah, that was like a thing that I had said, like, if we can do that, I'll feel like we hit a goal. And then who knows where that will put Cancer Christ onto the next thing, and just the trajectory will be good for all parties involved. But I didn't envision, playing in GWAR, so it's a double cool.
Definitely. I think I saw you say in an interview somewhere that at a certain point you kind of had various different projects, or you had like ideas of projects, and then you reached a stage almost like a kind of a panic where you went like, oh shit, I need to actually start making these things
Oh,
happen.
yes. Yeah, that was like 4 years ago. It was kind of when the pandemic had hit, and it was just a nice time to slow down and reassess and get
Mm.
out of the daily grind and cyclone maybe that I was in with like working and doing the Manx and juggling all these projects that weren't all the way fulfilling to me, and like just feeling kind of like I was hitting my head on the ceiling with a lot of things. And then I was like, shit, man, I'm gonna be old, whatever that means. I'm gonna, time's finite. So I just was like, now's the time. Like, um, I wasn't playing guitar for like 10 years. So like I was like, I'm gonna start playing guitar again and just do all these bands. And then yeah, that was it. It was like less out of a place of maybe there was like some panic there, but not too much. It was more of just like, all right, I'm gonna do it, and just determination
Mm.
kind of. And it was also me kind of like I have a lot of irons in the fire like right now, like I always do and have. And then it was like, cool, I'm starting a band with Anthony. Cool, I'm doing this like lifelong Squid Pisser thing. And then I joined another band called Def Club, and we were touring a bunch and recording a bunch, and I'm like just like yeah, saying yes to everything, seeing where it all takes me, and just getting as much experience as I can. And felt like catch up because I hadn't played guitar in so long. I wasn't thinking in terms of like super aggressive music, and that's was an itch that I had to scratch. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the like not playing guitar for a while, I mean, 10 years is more than a while, but I can sort of imagine that not playing it for an extended period really gives you an opportunity to reset. I mean, would you say that when you started playing again, that what you were doing was completely different to what you'd done before?
It was actually like exactly where I left off. I feel like it was like, okay, I feel like now I'm a little bit behind in a way. Like I would have done this 15 or 10 years ago or something. Because I had this other band called Razzle Blaster, which is kind of the precursor to Squid Pisser. And that was, I was just starting to do stuff like this. And then it just, I couldn't find a drummer that was awesome enough or like, able to do the stuff that I was thinking for that long kind of. I mean, I've played with awesome drummers and stuff, but like specifically just this really kind of technical stuff. So um yeah. So I don't know. I do feel like I just kind of picked up where I left off. But taking all of that life experience too and like adding that to it with song structure and like tonality and things like that.
Mm.
I definitely have more of that than I had 15 years ago or whatever. So
What about cunts?
I love cunts. Do you like them?
I love cunts. I was actually talking to Matt Cronk yesterday.
Oh, cool. Did you guys do an interview?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. Oh, I gotta check that out.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, probably it'll come out in a couple of weeks. I love their latest album, and he's got, a wild story with everything that happened with the crash and not being able to, yeah,
wow.
speak or talk. I mean, just absolutely crazy. Do you know those guys or just kind of an admirer?
Yeah, yeah. We're all like, part of the same crowd out here in
Mm.
LA playing shows, a lot of DIY shows, and um, those guys all play in a billion different bands. Matt and uh, I mean Cronk and Crane and Kevin. Um, and yeah, they're awesome, and they just put out a new album. It's really sick, and we yeah we meet up every now and again. Especially Mike Crane and I will just kind of meet up every 6 months, catch up, and like hang and hang at his studio or whatever, get tacos. But Kevin too, and then yeah, Quee is one of my favorite bands too. I don't know if you're familiar. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah, I mean
awesome.
that's like how I first became familiar with him, and then sort of I didn't realize at first that like that it was actually the same guy from Cunts and Quee, and then I went, oh shit, right, yeah, that's
Oh
same dude.
yeah. That's funny because he's so much more like snarling and nasty in cunts, which is so cool. He gets to do that, like
Yeah.
express these different aspects of himself.
And they like one thing I asked him about was about the mask in a sense. Like they don't really have masks, they have the whole stockings thing.
Yeah.
Now I'm wondering for you, because I understand, GWAR is a big influence, and of course they've got the whole mask thing going on, and now you've got masks with Squid Pisser. Was that something that you had done before in other bands?
No, not really, but it was always something I wanted to do. Um, like um, this is a band I had in high school called the Broccoli Tacos, and like I just always want, but we didn't play like this. This is just for a photo shoot. But we had these characters, There's like a Lego man and this
Yeah.
the fearless pumpkin warrior.
The Fearless
So
Pumpkin Warrior, did you say?
yeah, yeah. Um, this is we had like 9 dudes in the band. Um,
Oh, wow.
yeah, that was high school, and so I was always into like, doing characters and stuff like that. But it was tough to find people who like wanted to, or like, I don't know, I don't know why, but it wasn't until more recently that like Cancer Christ, Squid Pisser, and now GWAR, and the Manx would do a little bit here and there. Like we had these cool slug masks we would use for certain things. Um, but yeah, it's always been a fun thing that I wanted to do. It's just way more fun to like be a character. It's like more fun. I don't know.
And from a practical point of view, what are the pros and cons when you're performing of having a mask? Because I can imagine it could be sort of impractical in some ways.
No, it's better. It helps me to get into character and get in the mindset more, and just like it's like this ritual thing, and then you're constricted. It's like you're gearing up for war. I used to play football growing up, and it's like you strap on the pads, you get your stuff on. It's like go time, and like there's a lot of that. It's like you're preparing for war, like oftentimes, most of the times I'll wear like combat boots for shows. It's just like, I don't know, there's this kind of like strapping in and ritual thing, because it's like I don't want to be too comfortable in any situation. It's like you want to kind of um do things out of strife or something. I don't know, like
Mm.
uh so I don't know. For me, it's like it's all you get all kinds of benefits from transforming into like a character. This the small thing like with GWAR, I'm like, oh shit, now I have to play these guitar parts that I just learned with all this stuff. But like I got it real quickly, and you just kind of figure it out as you go. But so it's very, very minor. It's like, yeah.
So did they make a specific character for you for GWAR?
So because there was a tour coming right up, we weren't sure they weren't sure who they were gonna go with. It was like down to me and several other guitar players, or I guess a handful. And so all of the fitting and stuff they needed to figure that out before who it was gonna be before they made the mask and all this stuff. Matt McGuire and I teamed up a lot on the design aspect, and they basically Matt and I, he was like, and Margaret over there at the Slave Pit as well, and Bob Gorman. So that's the art department of GWAR currently. Um, they were kind of like, these are the pieces we have to work with, kind of. So we kind of hodgepodged or kit bashed um, the Grodius character with like older characters, just little bits like the ears from one and like the general face of the other, and then we elaborated on stuff with different things, and mix and match some different things, did different colors and stuff. So um, it was this iteration is very like what we had lying around, kind of. But right now, actually, I spent hours last night sketching and drawing a bunch of ideas and typing a bunch of ideas and stuff for a new character. So the new Grodius is going to be um, I feel like drastically different. And yeah, it'll be fun. So
And is there a plan for you to record with GWAR?
yeah, so I'm like going through like over 100 riffs or something, and like but I have a bunch of demos and stuff. Like as I was rehearsing myself here in LA for that last tour, I was just in between like learning solos and all this stuff and running things. I was just kind of do little writing sessions as well, where I'm just like, here's some ideas, here's some ideas. So I have a shit ton right now that I'm about to dive into and start piecing stuff together. So yeah, getting together with the guys in Richmond and writing stuff will be a priority. I'm not sure how quickly things will. There are several tours this year, so we'll see. But yeah, definitely gonna write and record stuff. That's the plan.
Nice. So
Yeah.
how many like active projects would you say you've got at the moment? So there's Cancer Christ, there's GWAR, there's Squid Pisser. What else is, taking up some of your creative time?
Yeah, so I have a record label, Sweatband Records, and that I'm trying to get help on all of these things. Like historically, I've been like a lot of the times one of the larger driving forces behind like any projects that I do. I'm trying to like learn to delegate a bit more, and like so that things can keep moving even if I'm not around, you know. So I have a friend who's helping with Sweatband right now, like helping ship things when I'm on tour and stuff like that. And I need help with social media stuff mostly, if anybody's out there. But yeah, so it's kind of those four things that are keeping me super busy right now. And typically I'm working in animation, but the animation industry is like entertainment industry in LA right now is kind of crazy, and there hasn't been a lot of work, and also I don't know if I'd have time for any of that stuff anyways, but that's what I would usually be doing too. Like if this was a few years ago, I'd be working a lot of hours on doing some kind of animation gig.
So have you basically committed like all into music related projects in terms of, you know, actually making money?
Yeah, so that's where I'm at right now, and it's kind of like that do or die moment, like make or break situation. So um but I was able to like save up enough with animation where I was like, okay, I'm gonna kind of have like a sabbatical where I just invest and put everything into doing music, and it's been working. And so I can't even if things get dark, I have to just keep going. But I have an awesome wife. We just got married. And
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, a couple of days ago,
Oh,
last week.
wow. Shit. That's really
Yeah,
recent.
yeah, yeah. So that's really exciting, and she's super supportive and wonderful. And so we live together, and I don't know. I feel like everything's on the right track in terms of like me being able to follow through on all this stuff. So, but we'll see how everything goes, I guess.
And what was the impetus behind starting a label?
That was like, well, it was, I would always kind of like make releases and then just put a funny label on it, just to legitimize it or whatever. Even as young as like 13 or something, I would always just have like funny little labels and stuff. So for a while I would change them, but then like I'd say early 20s or so, 2009, I think was our first official release, Sweatband Records. Uh, I Me and this guy, DJ Embryonic Petite Sack, who is a noise artist.
It's
He's
brilliant.
Yeah, he's great. He's like this like fucked up avant-garde noise artist guy, and he's anonymous. Nobody knows who he is. And he and I have been doing stuff for the last like 20 years. And so he and I started Sweatband Records, and he does a lot of like noise and cassettes and stuff, and then all kind of like get more bands, I'd say. And I've been doing a lot of vinyl. Um, but so he and I run the label. Well, we started the label, and but he's still involved in everything. So oh, but yeah, it was kind of just like we don't have a real label to put our stuff out, so let's just make our own. I think I can imagine that's most labels kind of start that way, I'm guessing. So
Yeah. I think I saw you had this may have just been like a one-off thing, but you had a band, or maybe it was just like you, Chum Out. Was that something that you put out on your label?
yeah, that was our first release. It was 7-inch. We did a split with DJ Embryonic Petite Sack, and it's my friend Jimmy and I, Jimmy Turner, who we've just known each other forever and always done weird stuff together. Yeah, and then so Chum Out, we would play shows. It was a two-piece. It was like a weird electronic project with like drum machine and power electronics, I guess. And I played guitar or bass, and we would get naked or in bikini bottoms, just all kinds of stuff. And a lot of alcohol and just crazy times in our younger days. The last thing we did, I think we played with Human Fluid Rot over in Miami. He was Human Fluid Rot is this another amazing noise artist. He he does this festival at Churchill's Pub in Miami, which is an amazing place. Um, but I think that was the last Chum Out show, and that was like 2019 or something like that. But
Okay, but so like still like you have these projects that might go on hiatus, but they could reappear at any time.
some of them probably not. But yeah, I think anything could happen. Yeah, it's fun to keep it that way.
Yeah. Getting back onto Squid Pisser specifically. So thinking about the these the songs in their final form, so to speak, and the way you've recorded them, how sort of beholden to doing the songs precisely are you when it comes to performing them live, and how much would you improvise things?
Um, yeah, so because like there are um so many little intricate hits and counts and timing things, the drummer Seth needs to be like on basically. The guitars and stuff, the drums and bass need to be on, I feel like. The guitars can kind of like deviate with like effects and things like that, but also just everything should be locked in during the performance of the songs, I feel. And we've probably all only played as a five piece, like all only played together like a total of like 20, maybe 20 times because um our guitar player Kieran lives in Canada and everyone's been busy doing other stuff. And we get together for a couple rehearsals, play a show or do a mini little run, and then back to other stuff. And so there hasn't been a lot of like not gelling, but like maybe room for developing improvisational stuff just yet. I feel like we could get there, but if we're playing more. Um, and then also, I was telling Michael this, our guitar player, he he's in an awesome band called Duck Duck Goose too, by the way, and he's also playing with Melted Bodies, which is this awesome band in LA. Um, and but I was like, um, I'm doing vocals live in Squid Pisser right now, and I'm like, I don't even ever envision or plan on doing that. Like I was supposed to play guitar, but like just based off of the pieces that we got, it was like, oh well, we have two guitar players. I guess I'll just do vocals. So it's just kind of like again, I'm like kind of like vocalist by like triple default now. Working my way down the line from being a drummer. But it's cool. I'm embracing it. I'm having fun and stuff. But yeah. Anyways.
So what actually is in the five-piece form, what is the lineup on stage? Who's playing what?
Yeah, so Seth Carolina on drums. We're gonna have a fill-in dude for a couple tours this year. Our buddy Sasha Gulev, I think he's how you say his last name. Um, and he's an amazing drummer. He was playing in New God, and a bunch of other bands. He's been touring a bunch. He's a younger dude. He's like 22, I think, but he's amazing. And then our friend Kieran, who we found him because he had done a cover of a Squid Pisser song on YouTube, and he's in Canada, and I just saw him in Canada when I was there with GWAR, and but he'll be coming out like next week because we're gearing up for this Necrogoblicon tour. And then our friend Corey, who used to be the Goblin in Necrogoblicon. I don't know if you know that band.
I feel like there's a lot of bands from this interview that I have to go check out.
Yeah, a bunch of cool stuff. Yeah. Um, Necrogoblicon's amazing. Their guitar player Alex is our manager right now. And so Necrogoblicon, they have like a goblin is their vocalist now. He used to just be kind of their hype man, but now he's the main vocalist. You'll find maybe you've seen one of their videos, but they're amazing. And then Michael, my dear friend Michael, is playing guitar in the band too. So yeah, and then I'm on vocals. So I think that was everything.
So you're not playing any guitar on stage?
No, not currently.
Because I was wondering about the practicalities of singing and playing those parts at the same time. Like, would you feel comfortable doing that if you just had a smaller lineup?
Yeah, so we Seth and I had done I think three shows just as a two piece.
Hmm.
Uh, and it was cool. It worked. I could do it. But that's just not ever what I envisioned. It's like I'm always picturing the five piece and then like a front man that can get up in people's faces or whatever. Um, but if I had to, I can do it and I've done it and it's just not as fun, I feel like.
And aside from the masks, in terms of those live performances, is there any other sort of theatricality that you've got? Are you throwing things at people? Do you have other props on stage?
Nothing so far. We have ideas for stuff. Maybe we'll get into um in the future. I don't want to spoil anything, but
Sure.
yeah, nothing just yet. It's pretty straightforward. It's kind of like a punk band, you know.
So, in terms of playing live and touring, what have you got lined up with Squid Pisser in the coming months?
Yeah, so we have a tour with Necrogoblicon for like that's good. It's like 10 shows in 2 weeks or something like that. Coming up in a couple weeks, we're hitting the road. And then we just announced today we're gonna go on tour with GWAR. So I'll be doing double duty on that for like I think that's only like 10 shows or something. Um, East Coast. And then we're coming right back to do 3 dates with Melt Banana in SoCal and Phoenix, Arizona. And then I think that's it for a minute. And then we go to Europe for Arctangent Fest, Complexity Fest, and a few other things in August. And that'll be our first time over there. And then I think there's going to be like a substantial fall tour. That's not confirmed, but so Squid Pisser has a few things this year, and which I'm really excited about. And I'm actually ordering t-shirts and stuff like that right now to get ready to go. And we're booking transportation and stuff. So all the logistics and stuff.
Yeah. One last thing I wanted to ask you, actually, you mentioned social media before and you said you didn't have that much time for it, but your Squid Pisser Instagram is pretty cool. And you always have these pretty funny little messages and posts and comments. Although I guess you possibly have your hands in like multiple different Instagram accounts. So like, are you actively doing that, or is that someone else that's doing that for you, or is it a combination?
So luckily, Michael, our guitar player, is doing that. He's taken on the Squid Pisser Instagram, and I'm so grateful because yeah, I think I have like 7 or 8 or something stupid like that amongst all the bands and projects and other silly things. So yeah, Michael's handling that mostly. I was doing it for a while, and then I was lucky enough to get him on, and he's great at it. So yeah, that's all Michael. Yeah, you should check out Duck Duck Goose, his other band, and again, like I said, Melted Bodies, he's been playing with too. They're amazing. And thanks for all the thoughtful questions. And you seem like a nice man.
My pleasure, Tommy. And likewise, behind the mask and all of the spunk, you also seem like a very nice fellow too.
Yes, yes. I try to be.